Emma stared at Daniel as the words hung in the air. I wasn't supposed to fall in love with you. For a moment she wondered if she had heard him wrong. Her mind was still trying to process the betrayal she had just witnessed. The lies. The other woman. The 3 years that suddenly felt like a fragile illusion. But what Daniel had just said sounded even stranger. Not supposed to, Emma repeated slowly. Her voice carried a mixture of disbelief and anger. What does that even mean? Daniel didn't answer immediately. He walked toward the kitchen counter and leaned his hands against it, like he needed something to hold himself steady. Emma noticed something she had never seen before. Daniel looked scared. Not guilty, not defensive, scared. That frightened her more than anything else. Daniel, she said, her patience gone, start talking. He nodded slowly. I will. But you need to understand something first. Emma crossed her arms. I don't think there's much left for me to understand. Daniel lifted his head and looked directly at her. I didn't meet you by accident. The words landed like a stone in the center of the room. Emma blinked. What? That day in the bookstore, Daniel continued quietly. It wasn't random. Emma felt her chest tighten. What are you saying? Daniel exhaled slowly, like every word required effort. I already knew who you were. The room suddenly felt smaller. Emma shook her head in confusion. That's impossible. Daniel looked down again. No, it isn't. Her mind raced. They had always joked about how romantic their meeting had been. Two strangers reaching for the same book at the same time. The perfect coincidence. The beginning of their story. You're lying, Emma said. Daniel shook his head. I wish I was. Emma's voice rose. Then explain it. Daniel closed his eyes for a moment. Then he said something that made Emma's heart skip. Your father. Emma froze. The mention of him felt like someone had suddenly opened an old wound. My father? She asked quietly. Daniel nodded. Yes. Emma stared at him. My father died 8 years ago. I know, Daniel said. The way he said it made Emma's stomach twist. How would you know that? Daniel hesitated. Then he answered. Because I was investigating him. The silence that followed was heavy. Emma felt like she had stepped into a completely different reality. What are you talking about? She whispered. Daniel took a slow breath. Before I met you, I worked for a private financial investigation firm. Emma frowned. So, Daniel continued. We were hired by a client to look into a series of missing funds connected to several companies. Emma still didn't understand. What does that have to do with my father? Daniel's voice lowered. His name appeared in the records. Emma felt anger rise instantly. My father was an accountant. Daniel nodded. Yes, for a company that was moving millions of dollars through hidden accounts. Emma shook her head violently. No, that's not true. Daniel didn't argue, but he didn't back down either. We believed he was involved in a large financial fraud. Emma's chest tightened. You believed? Daniel continued carefully. The investigation started years before I met you. Emma felt like the floor was moving under her feet. My father died in a car accident. Daniel's expression softened. Yes. Emma suddenly realized something. Her heart dropped. You were watching him? Daniel didn't answer. That silence was enough. You were watching my family, she said. Daniel finally spoke again. Only for a short time. Emma felt sick. So when you met me in the bookstore? Daniel nodded slowly. I recognized you. Emma's voice cracked. You approached me on purpose. Daniel looked miserable. Yes. Emma stepped backward like the distance might protect her from the truth. So the coffee. Daniel lowered his head. Yes. The dates. Yes. Emma felt tears run down her face now. All of it. Daniel didn't speak. Emma laughed bitterly. 3 years. Her voice echoed in the quiet apartment. 3 years of my life. Daniel finally looked up. Emma, at first, it was just part of the investigation. Her chest tightened painfully. At first, Daniel continued. But then things changed. Emma's voice was shaking now. When? Daniel answered honestly. The second date. Emma looked at him with disbelief. You expect me to believe that? Daniel stepped closer. I didn't plan to keep seeing you. But you did. Yes. Why? Daniel's voice softened. Because I actually fell in love with you. Emma stared at him. The words that once meant everything to her now sounded meaningless. You say that like it fixes something. Daniel shook his head. I know it doesn't. Emma wiped her tears angrily. So what happened with the investigation? Daniel's jaw tightened. Your father was cleared. Emma blinked. What? Daniel continued. The real fraud was happening above him. He didn't know about it. Emma's mind spun. Then why didn't you tell me any of this? Daniel looked away. Because by then we were already together. Emma laughed again, but this time there was no humor in it. So you just decided to pretend our relationship started normally. Daniel nodded slowly. Yes. Emma shook her head. You built our entire relationship on a lie. Daniel whispered. I built it on a mistake. Emma looked at him with cold eyes. No, Daniel. She paused. A mistake happens once. Her voice hardened. You lied for 3 years. Daniel had no answer. The silence between them grew heavier. Finally, Emma spoke again. One question. Daniel nodded weakly. Okay. Emma looked directly into his eyes. If I hadn't walked in tonight. Daniel's heart seemed to stop. Emma finished the sentence. Would you have ever told me the truth? Daniel opened his mouth. But nothing came out. Emma saw the answer immediately. She nodded slowly. That's what I thought. Emma turned toward the door again. But before she left, Daniel said something that made her stop. Emma, there's still one thing you don't know. She closed her eyes in frustration. Daniel, I don't think I can handle another secret tonight. His voice was almost a whisper. It's about Sophia. Emma felt dread crawl through her chest. What about her? Daniel hesitated. Then he said something that changed everything again. She wasn't supposed to be part of this either. Emma slowly turned back toward him. What does that mean? Daniel's face was pale. Sophia, he swallowed, is the daughter of the man who actually stole the money. Emma's breath caught. The story she thought was over had just become even more dangerous. Emma slowly walked toward the window. Every step felt heavier than the last. Behind her, Daniel stood completely still, his eyes fixed on the phone lying on the table, still connected to the call. Victor Hale's voice came quietly through the speaker. Go on, Emma. Look outside. Emma reached the window and pulled the curtain slightly to the side. The street below was dimly lit by yellow streetlights. Rainwater still reflected the lights on the pavement. For a moment, nothing looked unusual. A few parked cars, an empty sidewalk, the quiet city at nearly 3 in the morning. Emma turned slightly back toward Daniel. I don't see. Then she noticed it. Across the street, a black sedan parked under a streetlight. The engine was running. She could see the faint smoke from the exhaust in the cold air. The driver's door slowly opened. Emma's heart stopped. A man stepped out of the car. Tall, dark coat, calm movements. Even from the 3rd floor, Emma could feel something unsettling about him. The man looked directly up at the apartment window, right at her. Emma instinctively stepped back. Daniel, she whispered. Daniel moved quickly to the window beside her and looked down. The moment he saw the man, all the color drained from his face. It's him. Emma felt a wave of fear rush through her chest. Victor's voice spoke again from the phone. I see you found me. Emma picked up the phone again with shaking hands. Why are you here? Victor sounded almost amused. I told you. It's time we finally met. Daniel spoke sharply. You need to leave, Emma. Victor chuckled softly. Oh no, Daniel. A pause followed. She's already involved. Emma felt the weight of those words. Why? She asked into the phone. Why are you doing this? Victor answered calmly. Because Daniel has been looking for something that belongs to me. Daniel's voice hardened. That money wasn't yours. Victor laughed. That depends on who you ask. Emma looked down at the man again. Victor was still standing beside his car, staring up at the building like he had all the time in the world. Emma's voice trembled slightly. "You stole millions of dollars." Victor responded immediately, "No." A short pause. "I protected them." Emma frowned. "What does that mean?" But Victor ignored the question. Instead, he spoke to Daniel. "You were always very persistent." Daniel didn't answer. Victor continued. "I admire that." Emma could hear the tension building in Daniel's breathing. "Cut the games," Daniel said. "What do you want?" Victor replied simply, "You." The word landed like a gunshot in the quiet apartment. Emma's eyes widened. "Why him?" Victor's voice was calm. "Because Daniel is the only person who came close to finding the money." Daniel said nothing. Victor continued. "And because he made a very big mistake." Emma swallowed nervously. "What mistake?" Victor's voice lowered. "He involved you." Emma's heart pounded. "I didn't involve her," Daniel said quickly. Victor laughed. "You dated her for 3 years?" Emma suddenly understood something terrifying. "You knew about me," Victor answered calmly. "Of course." Emma's hands began shaking again. "You've been watching us." Victor didn't deny it. "Information is very valuable, Emma." Daniel's voice turned dangerous. "If you touch her," Victor interrupted him. "Oh, Daniel, if I wanted her dead, she wouldn't be standing in that apartment." Emma felt cold all over. Victor continued. "But I'm not here for Emma." He paused. "I'm here to make you a deal." Daniel frowned. "What kind of deal?" Victor answered. "The kind that keeps everyone alive." Emma looked back down at the street. Victor leaned casually against his car now, like this was all just a late-night conversation. Daniel spoke carefully. "What do you want from me?" Victor's answer came immediately. "I want you to find my money." Emma blinked. "What?" Daniel's eyes narrowed. "You think I know where it is?" Victor chuckled. "You're the closest anyone has ever come." Emma shook her head. "This is insane." Victor ignored her. "You have 48 hours. Daniel's voice sharpened. "And if I say no?" Victor didn't hesitate. "Then Emma dies." The words hit the room like ice. Emma felt Daniel's body go rigid beside her. "You don't get to threaten her," Daniel said through clenched teeth. Victor sighed. "Daniel, I'm not threatening." A pause. "I'm explaining." Emma's voice trembled. "You can't do this." Victor answered calmly. "Actually, I already did." Daniel looked back out the window. 2 more black cars had silently pulled up on the street. Emma hadn't even noticed them arrive. Her heart began racing. Victor spoke again. "Time is already ticking." Daniel asked the question that had been building in his mind. "How do I even start looking?" Victor smiled faintly down on the street. "That's the fun part." Emma whispered. "What if the money doesn't exist anymore?" Victor finally looked away from the building for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice was colder. "It exists." Daniel stared down at him. "How do you know?" Victor looked back up. "Because I never spent it." Emma felt the tension in the air grow thicker. Victor pushed himself off the car. 48 hours, Daniel. He opened the driver's door tick. Then he got into the car. The engine roared slightly louder. Emma whispered, "What do we do?" Daniel didn't answer immediately. He was staring at the cars below. Victor's car began slowly pulling away. The other two followed. The street returned to silence. But the danger had just begun. Daniel finally turned toward Emma. His face looked different now. Determined, focused, and scared. "Emma," he said quietly, "we have to leave now." Emma's heart jumped. "Leave where?" Daniel grabbed his jacket. "Somewhere Victor can't find us." Emma whispered the question she feared most. "Is there such a place?" Daniel didn't answer. Because deep down he wasn't sure anymore. The apartment suddenly felt too small, too exposed. Emma stood in the middle of the living room while Daniel rushed toward the bedroom, opening drawers and grabbing things quickly. "What are you doing?" Emma asked, her voice shaking. "Packing what we need," Daniel answered. Emma stared at him. You said we have 48 hours. Daniel returned to the living room, stuffing documents into a backpack. Victor didn't survive this long by giving people time to think. Emma felt panic rising again. You think he's coming back? Daniel shook his head no. A pause. He never left. Emma's stomach tightened. What do you mean? Daniel walked back to the window and looked down. The street was empty again, but his eyes were scanning the dark corners of the road. The cars leaving was just a message, he said. Emma crossed her arms tightly. A message for what? Daniel looked at her. For us to run. Emma felt the weight of the situation finally crash into her chest. This is insane, she whispered. 2 hours ago, I thought my biggest problem was that you cheated on me. Daniel looked down briefly. I know. Emma shook her head. And now some criminal wants you to find millions of dollars or he kills me. Daniel spoke quietly. That's exactly what's happening. Emma laughed nervously. This can't be real. But Daniel didn't argue. Because it was very real. He zipped the backpack and walked toward the door. We have to move. Emma hesitated. Where are we going? Daniel answered quickly. There's a place outside the city. Emma grabbed her coat. What kind of place? Daniel paused for half a second. My old office. Emma frowned. You don't work there anymore. I still have access, he said. Emma followed him into the hallway. The apartment door closed behind them with a quiet click. And suddenly Emma realized something painful. She might never return there again. The elevator ride down felt endless. Neither of them spoke. Emma could hear the sound of her own breathing echoing slightly in the small metal space. When the doors finally opened in the lobby, Daniel stepped out first. He looked through the glass doors toward the street. Empty. Still quiet. But the tension in his shoulders hadn't disappeared. Emma whispered, Do you think Victor has people watching us? Daniel didn't look back. Yes. Emma felt her pulse speed up. Then why are we leaving the building? Daniel opened the front door carefully. Because staying here would be worse. They stepped into the cold night air. The city felt strangely calm for everything that had just happened. Emma followed Daniel quickly toward his car parked around the corner. Her eyes kept scanning the street. Every parked car suddenly looked suspicious. Every shadow looked dangerous. Daniel, she said quietly, what if Victor follows us? Daniel unlocked the car. He will. Emma stopped. What? Daniel opened the passenger door for her. He wants us to look for the money. Emma slid into the seat slowly. So we're doing exactly what he wants. Daniel started the engine. For now. Emma watched the empty street through the windshield. This is a terrible plan. Daniel pulled the car away from the curb. I know. The streets of the city blurred past as they drove. The clock on the dashboard showed 3:02 a.m. Emma hadn't slept. Her mind felt overloaded with questions. Finally she spoke again. Daniel. Yes? You said Victor thinks you were close to finding the money. Daniel nodded slightly. Emma turned toward him. Were you? Daniel was quiet for several seconds. Then he answered, yes. Emma's eyes widened. You actually know something. Daniel kept his eyes on the road. I have a theory. Emma stared at him. And you didn't think that was important to mention earlier. Daniel sighed. Because if the theory is right, things get much worse. Emma felt her stomach tighten again. How could it get worse? Daniel finally looked at her for a moment. Because the money might be connected to your father. Emma froze. My father was innocent. Daniel nodded, yes. But that doesn't mean he didn't know something. Emma shook her head immediately. No. Daniel continued driving. When the investigation cleared him, we found something strange. Emma's voice grew tense. What? Daniel said quietly. He had opened a private storage locker 2 weeks before he died. Emma frowned. A storage locker? Daniel nodded. He paid for it in cash. Emma's mind raced. And? Daniel looked at the road again. No one ever checked it. Emma's heart skipped. Why not? Daniel answered. Because after his death the case was closed. Emma whispered. You think the money could be there? Daniel didn't answer immediately. Finally, he said, "I think your father might have hidden something." Emma felt her chest tighten with a mixture of fear and confusion. "My father would never steal money." Daniel shook his head. "I don't think he stole it." Emma looked at him. "Then why hide it?" Daniel spoke quietly. "Maybe he was protecting it." Emma stared at him. "From who?" Daniel's voice dropped to almost a whisper. "From Victor." They drove in silence for several minutes. The city lights slowly faded as they reached the outer roads. Emma suddenly noticed something in the side mirror. Headlights. 2 cars. Following them. Her heart jumped. Daniel, he glanced in the mirror. His jaw tightened immediately. "I see them." Emma's voice trembled. "They've been behind us for 5 minutes." Daniel pressed the gas slightly harder. The engine roared louder. "They found us faster than I thought." Emma gripped the seat. "What do we do?" Daniel's voice was calm but tense. "Hold on." Emma felt the car accelerate. The speed climbed quickly. The road ahead stretched dark and empty. Behind them the headlights stayed close. Emma's pulse pounded in her ears. "Daniel, they're gaining." Daniel turned the wheel sharply at the next intersection. The car slid slightly before gripping the road again. Emma gasped. "Are you trying to kill us?" Daniel didn't respond. His focus was locked on the road. The headlights behind them turned the corner too, still following. Emma whispered, "They're not stopping." Daniel muttered under his breath, "Of course they're not." Emma looked ahead at the empty highway. "Where are we going?" Daniel answered, "Somewhere they won't expect." Emma swallowed. "And where is that?" Daniel finally said the one place Emma never thought she'd hear. "The storage locker." Emma's heart stopped. "You're serious?" Daniel nodded. "If the money is really there," Emma finished the sentence quietly, "Victor will kill us." Daniel tightened his grip on the steering wheel. "Not if we find it first." Behind them the headlights grew closer, and Emma suddenly realized something terrifying. They weren't just running from Victor anymore. They were racing against time. Because somewhere out there $12 million were hidden. And whoever found them first might not survive the night.